I am doing a digital makeover of Larry Maguire for my website, and typically I do a lengthy blog post, and I probably still will do a lengthy blog post. However, when I was pulling together the analysis of Mr. Maguire's website itself, I found that his website is a little bit more complex than most MPs and wanted to give it a more thorough analysis and didn't feel like writing 1,000 words strictly on his website and putting too many images up. So I'll catch some of the high points in the body of the blog post, and this video is going to walk us through some of the aspects of the site that I think are particularly interesting. I'm not suggesting here that Larry Maguire's website is the best website. It is certainly better than most MPs. It is certainly more complex than most MPs. And that's why I feel like this video treatment is necessary for the site. By the way, this is an unscripted video, so if I fumble, that's just because I'm doing this based on how I navigate through the site. So I'll start from the top down, then we'll move through the site. You'll notice right away at the top of the website, there's a more involved menu structure. This is unusual. Most MPs have very few options across the top. The obvious ones, of course, are the contact page. Many have events pages, and then some will have a blog and an about. Home is, this is unusual nowadays. Home links still exist, of course. Usually it's in the banner. People will just click on the banner and it'll take you to the home page of the site. This is obviously a site that is a few years old, given by its look. So, so the home link doesn't necessarily surprise me. Of course, it's still handy to have some of these things written out for people who may not be familiar with how to navigate the web. I think there are probably still a few who aren't as digitally what's a good word for it? Dependent as people like myself and probably you. So let's go through here. So we have the about links. Very interesting that there's information about both Larry Maguire and his riding of Brendan Souris, and we'll go through that. The blog. Now, many MPs have blogs, and what you'll find is, as is evidenced by this very first post, is it's mostly just news releases, official statements, that kind of stuff. Really clunky language, not the kind of thing that the average person will care about. Probably something that the media cares about, definitely something the party cares about, definitely something the MP and their team care about. However, I think that the vast majority of people don't look at the news releases and they find the writing dull and clunky, and I'll get more into that. He shares op-ed pieces he's posted. He has a videos page and a photo albums page. Interesting that he has that listed under blog. Usually that's in a separate link, so probably over here somewhere, which suggests that there's multimedia. Some people actually have videos and photos as separate menu items across the top. Get involved. This is great. It's important to have a call to action. You'll notice right here in the main body of the page, right away, it's asking for people to sign up for the Maguire Report, which is obviously a regular newsletter that his office issues. And so giving people the ability to connect right away, sign up for something, do something. For people who care, this is, having this stuff right away is handy. But notice the get involved stuff Mr. Maguire offers is volunteer, which MPs are always looking for volunteers, and petition Parliament, and we'll get more into that. Your voice, now this is really interesting, and we'll go more into this section later on in this video. What I like about this Your Voice is this is Mr. Maguire's attempt to get people more involved, get people contributing, get them involved in a conversation, get them thinking about issues. I find it that this section is hidden. Something this important where you're actually trying to engage people, I would think that you'd want something a little bit more obvious here, maybe saying like influence me just to be confrontational, or I want to hear from you, or I need your input, something to get people to go, oh, I need to click on this. Your voice is handy, but it doesn't necessarily call to me. I do find this particularly interesting though. This is something I haven't seen in an MP website yet. Resources, really handy. He's got some ready-made pages with information about the federal government, which is really cool, and I'll go through that. Constituency services, proactive disclosure, traveling abroad, these kinds of things of helping his constituents, helping Canadians. Then events and contact information. Before I scroll down the page, one of the things I wanted to point out, by the way, is, actually I'm going to skip over that. See, this is totally unscripted. So we scroll down here, we notice that he has a recent post as a news release, and this is January 28th, 2016, Energy East deserves support. this is great. Having this information for his constituents, for people who come to his website, is important. Uh, I just find it clunky that it's a news release rather than something like from his own voice, delivered in the first person rather than the third person. So that's something that particularly people who might be interested in what he has to say, or his supporters, they feel like they're talking to him rather than Larry Maguire, the Member of Parliament for Brandon Souris. You'll notice, though, as I scroll along, Larry Maguire was sworn in today. Now, this is a letter to the editor, so we'll skip that. Larry Maguire, Member of Parliament for Brandon Souris. There's some more of them. Today, Larry Maguire, Member of Parliament for Brandon Souris. Larry Maguire, Member of Parliament. Oh, today, Larry Maguire. I find that all of them start the exact same way, and it really comes off as robotic. This is, this is traditional. This is the way Canadian politics operates. And I find that these days, with the way everybody's trying to push for greater communication, greater connection, feeling like they're, and creating that, whether it's an illusion or the reality of having a stronger connection with your MP, not because you went to their constituency office or shook hands at a pancake flip, but because you've gone to their website, you want to feel like they're connecting with you. And this feels like I'm eavesdropping on a conversation rather than I'm being spoken to. Spoken at rather than spoken to, I guess, is another way of thinking of it. And that's the kind of thing that needs to be considered by MPs and their teams in their online communications efforts. Really try to foster that connection of the author, you, and the audience, the one person who happens to be on the webpage at that time. I love this, by the way, the footer of his webpage. Most footers are typically just gray backgrounds, black, some shade of black background, whatever. Here we have an image of Larry Maguire. It looks like he's in front of a field or something like that. We've got parliamentary office contact information, constituency office contact information. We've got his, and because it's a monochrome background, the colors for the social media properties pop out. We have constituency services. There's no federal programs listed. But this is very unusual, jumps off the page, and it's presented rather than just made available, if you catch my meaning. It looks really slick. It's attention-getting. So let's go back up to the top. I know this is taking a long time, but there's a lot to go through. The bio, it's a typical political bio. It's largely listing off a number of Larry Maguire's achievements and the fact that he's a father and a grandfather. You can start to feel a little bit of a connection. I think that these things could probably be softened up a little bit and made to that you feel a little bit more connected with the member, as I noted earlier. Great photo along the side here. Just this is what I look like. And it gives a nice flow. Lots of white space, by the way. Not a whole lot of clutter, which is also good. Now, this is unusual. Most MPs, and when I say most, I'm talking pushing 100%. Certainly more than 90% of MPs, when they have constituency information, they link off to their page, or they offer at most a map of their page, a map of their riding. Larry Maguire has offered more. He's offered some information, demographic information, which is straight out of Stats Can. This section could probably be improved. The formatting is off, so it just looks like a divider. If you look carefully, you can see there's a plus sign. You can expand it. This particular field is vacant, but there's others that have information. Now, what he doesn't explain is what is the relevance of Drew Caldwell of the NDP. This is obviously a member of Parliament, a member of the Legislative Assembly in Manitoba, but for which riding, and why should I care about this person? Reg Helwer, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Again, we don't know why they're relevant, but they are on this page. So clarifying some of that information would be handy, but this is good. What's missing from the constituency side, by the way, is information about issues Larry Maguire is tackling for his constituency. A great place for this might be the blog, but it would have to be written in first person, really. By the way, a great person to look at for blog styling, for if you want to see what a good blog looks like in the MP set, look at Dan Albus, caucus mate of Larry Maguire's. He maintains his blog kind of as a little bit as a diary, but very first person, communicating to the audience, communicating to the reader about what he's doing and why. I particularly like the fact that he explains why he's voted a certain way. Recently he did a blog post about the Liberals being criticized for, and I can't remember what it was specifically, but they were criticized for something wrongly. And he said, my job in the opposition is to hold the Liberal Party, the Liberal government to account. And I will be doing my job, and I am doing my job. It's also my job to defend the government when they're wrongly accused. And he goes on to explain why the accusations were out of line. It's classy too. So that's blogs. Videos, by the way. His most recent video is from May. His second most recent video, and now I admit, he's obviously linking to other people's videos. The danger that you run into in these particular cases is, as we see here, the video gets pulled down and suddenly you've got this gross thing, this blob on your page. Notice though, we go from May 7th, 2015 is the most recent video, to the second most recent video is April 3rd, 2014. Then we go a month earlier. It's pretty active in 2014. Lots of dead videos, but very few videos overall. So that's something that should probably be fixed. The other thing that you might want to do is, as part of this videos page, is have a link. Oh, it is there, the YouTube channel, but a YouTube icon. Have it jump out. It jumps out here at the bottom of the page a little bit more, and having an icon that shows it would be handy. Another thing, by the way, that's really handy these days, and I give you that Larry Maguire site is a few years old, is having a header menu that stays static. So if I scroll to the bottom of a long page, I don't have to scroll back to the top to navigate to the next thing. Get involved. So we have, if we click on this link, it takes us to the bottom, and then something loads up. So we have a slider, obviously, because it's got two positions and it's auto-rotating. But it kind of doesn't relate specifically, in my view, to what we have as sub-items, which is volunteer. So you can fill out a form to volunteer to Larry Maguire. I find this very interesting, by the way. Send your request to volunteer. It's almost like send your offer, send step up or something. I don't like the word submit, by the way, on buttons. Submit sounds very like you're giving yourself up to something. I kind of like send my application, send my form. Language like that doesn't make it sound like you're rolling over and baring your chest to somebody. Petition Parliament. This is really interesting because the rules have changed recently. It was a Kennedy Stewart from the NDP introduced some guidelines, and I believe they've been accepted now on a formal petition process through the federal government. And for electronic petition, but certainly Larry Maguire has made available here information about how to petition Parliament. Very few MPs actually do that. Your voice. So let's go through this really quickly because there's a lot to go through here. First of all, I think that this is interesting. Is Larry on the right track or the wrong track? With no offer for contextualizing, but people can cast their vote with and I would assume that Larry Maguire or a member of his staff would follow up with people who say anything here. But is he on the right track or the wrong track about what? Aha! So it's not obvious, but you click on this and then you get your little pop-up. One of the things that strikes me is that it doesn't show you that you have the option to complete this optional additional comments field. And so when I first looked at this, as I kind of demonstrated there, it makes you feel like, oh, I can tell him he's right or wrong, but I can't tell him why. And so I think that this is showing this optional comments field right away is kind of handy, even though it makes the form a little bit longer. Formatting wise, by the way, I'm on Chrome, and first and last are a little bit tight. The other thing is these days people just put that right in the field. It'll say first inside and last inside there. But then he has these things, strengthen Canada. So which idea do you want to have become law? And then he gives you a whole list of things. Now some of these are dated, of course, because it's been a while since this has been updated. But you can cast your vote on any of these issues. There's a little short bio on the side, by the way. And then there's an event that's already passed. We can view results. Now it doesn't tell us how many people voted, but we can see that there's 25% have supported this bill to adopt proportional representation for the electoral system. 28, a motion for the federal government to introduce a tax credit to those who vote in federal elections. So really interesting things, and this is a great feedback loop. Again, though, it's buried in the site, and this is something I think specifically like this. A few things occur to me. One is there's too many options, And two is it really should be front and center on the page. Get people knowing that, help people understand that when they come to your site that they can click on something right away and go and see it and participate. Then there's information about the Reform Act. Should Larry support it? This is great. This is, it's kind of like a virtual town hall. He's given people this opportunity to engage with him and help him with his direction as MP for his constituents. It's important to note, by the way, that he is asking for things like postal code, which matters, because obviously he has to represent his constituency first and the interests of others secondarily. Not saying that they aren't important, but he is elected as the MP for Brandon Souris. So he wants to make sure that he represents the views of his constituents. So this is great, by the way. I love this. I think more MPs should do it. I think that there's probably things that can be done to tweak it and make it better. Resources. This is fabulous. So he links to a number of web pages related to the government, just related to him, pardon me, straight off the resources page. You go to the federal government page, and this is really interesting because he lists all the different departments of the federal government, and then you can click on a particular link, for example here, status of women, and it'll take you to a description of what that department is before it sends you to the page. It says, hey, this promotes gender equality and the full participation of women in economic, social, cultural, and political life of the country. Visit the department's website. Boom. Right? This whole thing, you can scroll through to Transport Canada, explains what they do, and there's their link. This is fabulous. He's not only is he keeping you on his site a little bit longer, but he's helping you understand what the department does rather than just kicking you off to their site. All right. Constituency services. I still find it a problem, and I'm not judging Larry Maguire here specifically, but for MPs in general, that they really don't give very much information about their constituency and the work they're doing for their constituency. A little bit more being done here, and you do see some MPs do things like you can have, say, order congratulatory certificates. You can ask for assistance with passports. Sometimes you can if it's your anniversary or birthday coming up, do you want a signed letter from the Prime Minister? And MPs from all parties will help people get these things arranged. So this kind of stuff can be organized here, but I also think that there's a value and a need for him to identify the things that he's working on for his constituency. If people have an issue with something that's going on with federal land, for example, in his riding, that should be up here so that if people go and check out his website, all the information is there. His events page, like many MPs' event pages, is out of date or has nothing listed. So that's something you probably want to keep up to date. And then he has his contact page with lots of information, shows why you might want to contact him, gives a map for his constituency office, the address and phone number for his parliamentary office, all this stuff. And then again, we have over here these links that blow up, but you have to know that it's not obvious that you're supposed to blow them up. And more importantly, it's not obvious to me why Drew Caldwell matters. I mean, he's obviously, it says here, not sure which division you live in, find your MLA here, but he could make it easier, I suppose, by having that search capability right in his site rather than kicking people off to Elections Manitoba. So making it a one-stop shop to really help people and keep them on his site longer. Do I like Larry Maguire's site? I think his site is fantastic. You'll have to read my blog post to find out what grade he gets on it. But this information here is hopefully helpful to MPs of all parties, because I think there's a lot for you to learn by looking at what other MPs are doing and how, and what they're not doing, and considering maybe why.